Hello everyone, and welcome to the CoAngler System. This is a course where I will teach tournament proven successful strategies from the back of the boat, hence the name the CoAngler System. So I want to thank you if you decided to embark with me on this journey to increase your knowledge, expand your foundation as it relates to tournament bass fishing. I do realize there's a lot of other things that you could take a look at, and I certainly appreciate you taking time out to listen to mine here today. So I do have some tournament proven strategies to be successful from the back of the boat, and I'll kind of get into it a little bit as we go along with the class. But before I do that, a little bit about me. My name is Ty. Actually, my full name is Tyrone Adams Jr. I am a junior, and I am a 41-year-old married father of 4 children. I have been tournament bass fishing competitively for the last 3 years. I've been fishing overall for about 6 years. So with that being said, as far as the amount of experience, the things I've been able to gain overall as it relates to fishing, within the last 3 years competitively tournament fishing, there's definitely a lot of things that I've picked up. I've fished at the highest level that you can possibly fish from the back of the boat, and I've fished at the bare bottom basic limit that you could possibly just hop in and go fishing type of deal. So I've done everything that you could possibly do as it relates to the scale of fishing, fishing bigger tournaments. Most recently I fished a tournament as a boater actually, where the first place prize was $1 million. Like, I've done things as big as that, and I've done things where I fished a Wednesday night tournament where you slap your money down and you just go fishing. So there's the range in there is a lot, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different strategies that work for one that may not work for the other. There's some that work for the other that may not work for one. So what I've developed here today that I wanted to share with you is what's called my tournament, my CoAngler System. This is, again, tournament proven strategies as it relates to fishing and catching fish in the back of the boat. Now, as far as the fishing side of things, my experience, or why I say it's tournament proven, I have some information here that'll kind of help you kind of glean where the knowledge is coming from. So this is a first place trophy from the BFL division here. This is actually out of my state, but this is in North Carolina on Kerr Lake. I have a BFL winning trophy. So this is a tournament win out of the back of the boat with the bait that I won the tournament out of the back of the boat with, right here in the trophy, modified as all get out the way I needed to have it to be successful for that tournament. So the reason why I feel like I can come to you with this information is because I've done exactly what it is that I'm telling you to do. Now, you're like, okay, well, that's one. All right, well, let me show you another one where I was able to make money out of the back of the boat. So there's another trophy here. This is a 4th place trophy at a different tournament in a river system. So that was in a lake. This one's in the river system. So you have different types of bodies of water, different things like that that you may embark on, especially from the back of the boat as a co-angler. You're going to be fishing pretty much all over, just like everyone else, right? So you have to be successful in multiple places. This is a 4th place. This is a super tournament, actually. This is a 2-day tournament. I managed to keep up and catch enough fish for the 2-day to get a 4th place trophy. Not pictured here is I did have a 10th place finish, in which I actually caught more weight than I caught in those, but the day was just that good where everybody else was pretty successful as well. So really good day. But in those type of days, those shootout derbies, those ones where the weights are just up there, everybody's whacking them, that's also something that this strategy will help you with as well. So this will help you with the grind tournaments. This will also help you with the tournaments where the fish are just chewing, literally just throw what you got to throw and they're biting. It'll help you with that as well. So the information I'm providing is going to help you from all levels. So basically, from someone who just got into fishing, who wants to know what to do, from someone who's been out there fishing for a long time and just can't get their right here, bud. And someone who just can't seem to crack that line where they got to check. Now, I will also present to you with my my stats as well for this year. I want to give you guys the bio. It's like when you sit down in class and you have a chemistry professor. It's nice to know that your chemistry professor did really well in chemistry. Does that make sense? Like before you actually tune in and listen to what the person's saying. So last year, I managed to fish 2 BFL divisions as a co-angler. I qualified for the regional in both divisions. Cashed a check in, I think, 3 out of the 5 tournaments in one, 2 out of the 5 in the other one. I cashed a check in the regional tournament. Prior to that, I won the tournament. I had a top 5 in the tournament. Top 20, which is also a check. and I believe there was one more check in there as well. So out of the tournaments I fished, a little bit under, I think like 40% chance where I've gotten a check. So if you tell me anybody that fishes that will take kind of a 2 out of 5 to cash a check, basically you show up 5 times, you're going to cash a check twice in these tournaments when the payouts are what they are. I'm sorry, I'll gladly take that information and try to see if I can learn something from that information that might can help me. So in the CoAngler system, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to focus on one particular area in this. I will continue to make more as it relates to the system and sharing information. I will make more, but this one in particular is going to be the CoAngler system that I have. Now, I'll kind of start from the top. So kind of our first point here of the day that we want to kind of get into is, and this is pretty much where I'm going to leave it at, but I'll have points within this point. But the first one is the number of rods to carry. So building on the number of rods to carry to a tournament. Now this is assuming that if you're watching this, you are a co-angler, you've been a co-angler, you're trying to be a co-angler, but you've done enough research to know that you're going to have to carry rods to the tournament. Okay, just that's some stuff I'm thinking that's implied, but you have to carry your own rods to the tournament. So you sign up for a tournament online or by sending an email or text message, you enter a tournament. They give you the information for the tournament, the details. Some tournaments have a certain number of rods you can bring. In particular, I fished the Bassmaster Opens, I fished the Toyota Series tournaments, I fished the BFLs, ABAs will be on my schedule this year. I fished Potomac Teams, I fished Battlefield Bass Club, Angler, take your pick, Bass Pro tournament, Amateur Open tournament. Like, there's so many different things that I fish. So basically, each tournament that you get into, you need to be aware of the rules for a co-angler, and some of them have a certain number of rods that you can and cannot carry. So you want to be familiar with that. Once you get familiar with that, you never want to bring the max number of rods. I'm going to just say that right off the bat. There's never a scenario where you want to bring the max. If they say you can bring 8, don't bring 8. And I'm not very firm on a lot of things when I'm talking about fishing, but do not bring 8. You will hate it about 45 minutes in. You're going to hate it. I don't care how organized you are. I don't care how much of a rack system you got going on. Scratch all that. Okay? You're going to hate it. It's way too much. You're going to overcomplicate everything is that you're doing. Do not bring 8. My preferred suggestion for a number of rods is 6. It should have been like a ding right there. 6. Okay, that's what my suggestion is for 6. If you can get away with 5, get away with 5. If you can get away with 4, get away with 4. But my suggestion is 6. And for the 6 rods, I suggest you bring 3 spinning, 3 bait casting. That's what I recommend. As far as rod, reel, brand, company, that type of thing, you use whatever it is that you want to use. For me personally, I use 13 Fishing. I know some people feel a certain way about certain things, whatever. Some people love Domino's, some people love Little Caesars, man. It is what it is for that part of it. So I'm not going to dig into all that, but I'm telling you what I use. But 3 spinning, 3 bait casting. And the reason why I say that is because as we build on this system deal that I'm talking about, this is part 1. You want to bring the right amount of equipment. You want to bring enough equipment to where you can handle any situation that comes up, but you don't want to bring too much to where it becomes a cluster where you can't get to, you can't find, you don't know what's going on. What did I tie on this? Where is that? Why is this tangled up with this? Why is that tangled up with that? The more and more stuff you bring, the more and more time you spend trying to undo, twist around, fix up. You can twist your rod around and make it look nice and neat like certain anglers do. That's fine. But I'm telling you, after you make 5 different presentations with 5 different rods and reels, and then you go to put them back, if all that time you're spending twisting them up to put them back nice and neat in the area could be avoided if you just didn't bring so much stuff. So my preferred recommendation is 6. Okay. Now the reason why I say 6, we're gonna dig into that. I've got some stuff here that I've got pulled out specifically that I want to share with you guys. But I say 6. Now, I do personally recommend rod covers, especially if you're coming through the parking lot, if you're traveling in your car, put rod covers on your things. When you get to the tournament, when you get in the boat, I recommend it for the ride to the first stop. But after that, or on the way there, or literally right before there, what I recommend for that is I recommend that you put, sorry guys, I don't know what just happened there. Someone popped up there, I'm quite sure. I do recommend that you kind of get the rod covers. What I typically do is I get the rod covers off after like our first stop or right before. It depends. If he says he's making a short run, I go ahead and take everything off right there in the boat. I take the rod covers off, all that, and I get ready to rock. Because I know if it's a short run, I want to be ready to cast as soon as we get there. I don't want to be taking covers off and doing all that. I want to be ready to rock. So I am going to do the secondary class to this is going to be about being efficient, so maximizing your time and the opportunities that you have on the boat. I do have a secondary class coming up for that. And I certainly appreciate you guys, like I said, for choosing to rock with me on this. I know there's a lot of people you can talk to, but I'll be honest with you, listening to someone who's an angler that does it here, that used to do what you do, and they got there, that's great. But it's also great if you could listen to someone who's actively doing it right now. So you are listening to an angler that's going to be right beside you on the water fishing these tournaments next season, and has been the past 3 seasons. When I pull up to the ramp, there's people that know, they know I'm going to be there. I'm going to be fishing there. Some of them will prefer I not come. There's a reason they prefer I not come, okay? But I'm going to be there, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to cast. So I do appreciate it. I want to just take a second here and tell you that I do appreciate it. It's a class. I like to give information, but also, too, I want to make it a little bit fun, right, guys? I'm trying to bore you to death. I don't want you guys taking a nap on me, but I can't throw something at you anymore. The rules have changed at school. Your teacher could throw like a race at you or something, but can't do any of that stuff anymore. So I don't have anything to throw. Don't worry about that. But I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for you guys to tune into this one. Guys and ladies, I'm thankful for you tuning into this. I'm hoping that everyone can get a little piece of this information. So thank you for that. Now, as I was saying, I recommend those rods. Like I said, I got the class coming up about maximizing your efficiency. I want you to maximize your opportunities and be efficient. Maximum time casting, minimum time prepping with a bunch of stuff. And that's the reason why I say 6 rods, because I want you to have 6 different presentations when you get there. So that brings us to our second point. Why 6 presentations? Why do I gotta bring 6 rods? Why do I gotta bring 5, 4? I'm only gonna throw a jig all day. Okay, I get that. Trust me, I'm a bona fide jig fisherman at heart. I will throw a jig all day if the day presents it, and that's what I'm able to do. There's been very few bodies of water I've been able to do that. But if it comes up, I'm catching a jig fish. If a jig bite is the bite, I'm catching a jig fish. Spinnerbait bite is the bite, I'm catching a spinnerbait fish. Crankbait bite is the bite, you guarantee you I'm catching a crankbait fish. So I say the 6 rods because, again, I want you to have enough to be prepared for any situation. So for example, 6 rods. The reason why I do 6 rods is because I want to cover, and this is the key part to the system. So this is part 2. We're into part 2 of the system. Thank you for part 1. This is now part 2, or 1A, or 2. This is 2. So the reason for that is I want you to cover every depth column. So the reason for the 6 is to cover the depth columns. You, as a co-angler, you're piecing together a puzzle that you may not have ever seen before, because you're in the back of someone else's boat in a place of a body of water that you may have been to before, but you don't know what that person is going to do, what they're looking for, what they're looking to do, what they're thinking about doing, how their practice went, what state they're from, what they like to fish. So for example, you're fishing the Potomac, but you get a guy that comes up here who's used to fishing Lake Murray. He gets up here on the Potomac. We're not chasing herring fish up here. There's no points in sitting back off of them 1,000 feet and throwing weighted flukes. That's not a thing. Now you can throw a weighted fluke on the Potomac for sure, but you're fishing it over grass. You're not fishing it, Donnie. You're not fishing it over. It's a different mindset for this. You're fishing it over grass, hoping to bring it over the holes, and or let it fall down on the hole and get bit that way, versus fish blowing up everywhere. Okay, so it's a different mindset as it relates to that. And guys, I know you might be hearing a sound here for and I did mention that part about being a father of 4. I do have 4 kids, and as much as I would love to have quiet space and quiet time to be able to do these videos, that's not always the case, and I don't feel like that's a reason why I can't make or bring you the content. So I do apologize. Give me 1 second. Actually, make sure that you wrote down part 1, part 2. We're on to part 2 now. We're going to get into it. Give me 1 second, guys. Alright, so as I mentioned, for part 2, basically what it comes down to is you want to cover every depth column. And that's the reason why I suggested 6 rods. Now, ideally you start with 6 rods, and by the end of the day, I hope that you're only throwing 2. And you're going to ask, why 2? I'm going to tell you why 2 in just a second, but 6 rods is where we start at. And like I said, I want you to be able to cover every depth column, because you're on a body of water that you may or may not be familiar with, you may be very familiar with. But either way, You're fishing behind someone. There's a different mindset if you're just going out there in your own boat and you're just flipping at everything. You hit all the pieces of cover. You hit every edge of the dock. There's a different thing. If you're fishing behind someone who is throwing a chatterbait, they're burning it. What can you do to get in there and keep up? And then let's say you're fishing behind someone who has probably 30 rods in their thing. Okay, so when they see a blow up and they want to throw a frog, they bam, frog, they're done. Okay, they want to throw a fluke, bam, they throw a fluke. They want to throw underspin, they throw underspin. All their stuff is like right there, easy. Pick up, grab, pick up, grab, pick up, grab. So as much as they adapt, you need to be able to adapt. That's why I say 6 rods. I recommend if you can get away with 5, get away with 5. But a lot of times I would say 6. And there are some bodies of water where the numbers will change. I said 3 and 3, bait caster, 3 spinning. There's some bodies of water that I recommend 4 spinning, 2 bait casters, because this ain't going to happen that much. This is going to happen a lot. There's some where you need like 5 bait casters and you might need 1 spinning pole, but I always recommend a minimum 2 spinning poles. So my numbers will never be 5 and 1. It'll always be 4 and 2. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But I recommend 6, and just for a flat format, I'm going fishing. I signed up for a tournament. I need to get out there. What do I bring? 6 rods. Okay. What do the 6 rods need to have? 3 bait casters, 3 spinning, because you want to cover every depth column quickly until you figure out what the fish are doing. That's when you can narrow it down to 2. You know that the fish are feeding on the bottom. You've thrown everything else. You've done this. You know they're feeding on the bottom, but they want the bait to come at a certain speed in front of their face. You can get on them. You have the tools necessary to do what it is that you need based on the number of rods that I said that you got. But, so we're talking about the depth columns. We'll stick with point number 2, depth columns. So right here, the majority of baits can be fished at multiple columns. So you can kind of circumvent the system by, and make it fit your style of fishing by tweaking what you do with the bait. So if I'm fishing a tournament, this is me personally, if I'm fishing a tournament, what I'm going to have tied on, a crankbait. This one goes 3 to 5 feet. I'm going to have a spinnerbait on. I can fish this on the bottom of the ocean if I want to wait and count it down or let it sink down, or I can burn this at the top like a topwater. This is going to cover quite a few areas. For me, what I'm tying it on, this is going to be secondary to a buzz bait or a topwater. And I don't have a buzz bait or a topwater. But typically, I have a crankbait. I'm searching with this. I'm searching with this. This should be, I'm running it typically on line so it bangs the bottom. We're fishing pretty shallow. I can see what's up on the bank. I want this to bang the bottom of wherever I'm fishing at. So for 3 or 4 feet, I want this to go 5, and I want it to hit the bottom, hit everything, deflect off stuff so I can get those bites. This I'm fishing because I want it to go slightly subsurface. I may blow it up out the water every once in a while, but right there, I covered the bottom, I covered right beneath the surface, and the other one in this scenario that I'm not picturing would be a buzz bait. I would throw, so basically, first tournament, we get on the water, I'm pulling up from my first spot, I'm starting with moving baits first. I never, ever pick up a shaky head as my first line of defense. I never do that. Shaky head is after I figure out I need to know they won't hit this first before I'm going to a shaky head. I'm not doing that. Drop shot. That's what I'm doing first. Now, when I say I'm not, I literally could be 7 minutes into the tournament. I could have gone through all of these already, and I figured out that the shaky is what I'm gonna have to throw. I'm not gonna fail completely because I'm choosing not to. Or I gotta fish I gotta catch a spinnerbait fish. I gotta catch a crankbait fish. I'm not that guy. I will cast all 6 of my rods and reels within the first 10 minutes of a tournament. I will cast all 6 presentations out until I figure out which one they biting, and then I will dive in. I don't do that often, but if it's one of them days where I'm just like, this ain't it. I'm not feeling it. This ain't it. I'm not feeling this ain't it. I will switch, and my boater will look at me and be like, dude, what's going on? I'm going to run through those baits until I figure out one that when I get it in the water, I'm hitting the depth that I need to hit. I'm feeling stuff as I'm coming back. And then I'm ready to rock. If I know I'm fishing a little bit deeper in that day, the guys told me that's what we're doing, I'll bring one that goes 7 to 9. This is a half-ounce spinnerbait, so I'm still going to bring this. And I'll still bring the buzzbait because you never know, especially early spring, things like that, man, fall, summer. I mean, whenever it is, you can start with some type of topwater, whether that be a frog if you're on the river. A fluke is a topwater to me. I'll fish the fluke topwater and subsurface. So things like that. Just run through your gamut of baits that you have. I have a whole nother CoAngler Chronicles series that I have that's on YouTube and it's on a podcast. You guys can check that out, but I have a whole nother series on that. but I kind of go into detail on different things on there. But for this particular class, the CoAngler system, we're talking about you need to have something to cover different depths. Now, most tournaments too, I will also bring, I said I got spinning rod. So I'll have a wacky rig rigged up on a spinning rod, and I'll have a drop shot rigged up on a spinning rod. So I just gave you guys, if I'm going to fish a tournament, my first bass tournament, and I'm excited to get out there, or my 100th bass tournament, I'm excited to get out there, but I'm not winning the way I need to win. I'm not cashing. I'm not seeing the results. I don't have the ROI that I'm looking for. I'm giving you this stuff right here. Spinnerbait, drop shot, shaky head, or wacky rig, and insert either one, crankbait. So with this, I got the slow fall that I need with the wacky rig. I can add a nail weight or something if I want to fall a little bit faster. Drop shot, I can go heavy on the weight if I want to get it down there quick, or if I want to get it fall a little bit more, like an 8 ounce type of weight for a drop shot. This, I got the suspending fish that's hovering a little bit above the bottom. They're not on the bottom directly, they're just kind of on and they're just looking. I get those with this. The wacky rig, if they're not moving much, they're pretty finicky, they're just kind of, I can come and fall slowly in front of them with that. I can hop it, fall slowly. So I've covered now suspending, less active fish that want a more finesse type presentation, fish that's ready to chase and get after it, they want to bang on the bottom, and pretty much anything in between. I've covered with these 4. Okay, so you're like, you said to bring 6. Right, exactly, I did say bring 6. So let me be clear. 2 bait casters, 2 spinning. All right, we're at 4 right now. Now, what I typically always bring for a tournament, because you never know, and again, this is a CoAngler system, proven tournament strategies for winning tournaments. Guys, I've thrown bull shafts from the back of the boat. I've thrown, what's that? It's a giant bait by Ima Glide Fluke, a big like 180 size. I've thrown these things from the back of the boat because I'm trying to hit a home run, guys. Sometimes if you're not going to win the tournament, at least you're going to get big fish, okay? And big fish pays money. So if the goal is to make money and get in there, sometimes you got to understand that. Especially if a day's going away where I haven't got no bites, it's not my day, the boater's not getting bites, it's just not happening. For the last half hour, I'll throw a bull shaft for the last half hour. I'm trying to catch a 6-pounder. I want to get big fish. And sometimes if you catch that 6-pounder, you'll cash from the back of the boat. A lot of times for coins, if you get 3 fish, you'll cash a check. Some places 2 fish. If you get 5 and 5 decent quality fish, you got a chance of winning any CoAngler BFL. Any CoAngler BFL, if you get a 5-fish limit, you have a chance at winning. 4 fish, you're pretty much guaranteed to check if they're not all like 12 ounces. 4 fish, you're pretty much guaranteed to check if they got quality 4 fish. 3 fish, same thing. 3 quality, you're pretty likely to get a check. In the Bassmaster Opens, you can only catch 3. So you kind of got to swing for the fence in the Bassmaster. Bassmaster Opens is kind of a whole different philosophy in a sense. Same tournament strategy, same proven successful strategies. I did more than enough to cash a check at the most recent Bassmaster Open. More than enough. I had some unfortunate things happen to me in that day. That's not what this class is about. Class is about helping you do what you need to do. I could do one on adversity and overcoming that type of thing, but check out my YouTube if you want to see that kind of stuff. But on this one, we're talking about ways to win. And if you're trying to win cash checks consistently, these are things that you need to do. So the third bait caster is either going to have, depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm getting out there and this is a big fish place, I'm probably going to put on a pretty big swim bait. This is a 6-inch swim bait, so it's not literally, like people give me a hard time when I say I'm fishing this. Guys, this is a Senko, this is a mag draft. The mag draft is literally like an inch bigger than a 5-inch Senko. If a fish will eat this, he will sure eat this. Don't get in your own head and not throw the big baits that you need to be successful. This is a mag draft, it's a 6-inch. You can get a 5-inch mag draft if you're thinking that like that's what you want to do. Get a 5-inch one and do that. But and some guys throw 6-inch Senkos, 7-inch Senkos. You could throw a giant swim bait as well. So it's either going to be something like that. And for me personally, what I like, my third bait typically is something that I can flip and pitch easy. So my third bait is either a jig or a Texas rig. Like 8 out of 10 times, that's usually what I'm bringing. So I have a spinner bait, I'll have a crankbait, and then I have a jig or a Texas rig. Because if we pull up into some logs and wood and there's some nasty stuff, I just don't want to be in a position to where I can't maximize my time casting because I have to retire because something isn't right. So spinnerbait I know can pretty much go through any piece of wood known to man. Crankbait I can get it through any piece of wood, but I like to feel out the boater's speed first before I start throwing the crankbait around with those treble hooks, because if he's burning and going some wonky angles, my crankbait will get hung up if I have to cast it like this and then come up I don't want to do weird stuff. So if I know he's going in a routine down the bank, then I will start throwing my crankbait and I'll start working it through the wood and doing pretty good, banging it into the rocks. I'll do all that kind of stuff based on who I got in the front of the boat. I'm not going to get too crazy depending on the guy I have. If he's looking at me weird and I somehow I get hung up and he's like, oh, come on, man, like, I'm probably going to put that crankbait away. I don't even want to take the chance of getting hung up and losing. This stuff's too expensive to be losing stuff. So once I feel out the guy I'm fishing with, then I go with the system, which is why I typically will start with the spinnerbait, or I'll start with the Texas rig, and I'll just be flipping stuff, just kind of getting a feel for the speed, how things are going, see if I can get a bite early, that type of thing. Or the other one that I typically will throw is a chatterbait. I definitely recommend throwing a chatterbait as well. So seeing how you're going, chatterbait, same as spinnerbait, same as crankbait. You can run different depths. Crankbait's the one that you just want hitting on the bottom. Chatterbait, spinnerbait, we're hovering a little bit versus guaranteed we want to hit on the bottom and crawl. You can do that, but I think you need to be a little bit more doing it on your own that way. Otherwise, you're going to donate a bunch of spinnerbaits and chatterbaits if you put a single hook on the bottom. Crankbait's made to deflect and go off, that type of thing. You can fish any kind of bait, any kind of way, but I'm just giving you some proven ones that I've done. Now, if you say, okay, dude, well, you talking about a crankbait, talking about a spinnerbait, yes. This, of every check that I mentioned, every check I've ever gotten in the BFL, almost 9 out of 10, crankbait was involved. In particular, this exact crankbait. This crankbait. Something about this chartreuse and black. It catches them. I was throwing this in crystal clear water. I was throwing it in the dirt. It catches them. The other one, you say, oh, well, what happened with this? Well, I threw a spinnerbait for the win. The spinnerbait was the ticket for the win. Oh, well, what happened with that 4th place or 10th? Yes, I was throwing a chatterbait. Okay, well, what happened with the 4th place? I was throwing a shaky head and a drop shot. I'm giving you guys the exact specific baits that I threw, exactly what I threw to get the success that I got. I'm literally giving you the exact deal. I went to Lake Murray. I was throwing topwater. I was throwing it was a whole different type of deal. I've gone to the same place where I threw that spinnerbait and lit them up, and I cashed a check a different day, same body of water, but I was throwing a fluke that day. So you got to adapt whatever it is that you're doing, but with this system, this CoAngler system in the tournament, the proven strategies, you can be successful. Now you say, why the 3rd spinning rod? So what I've noticed a lot of times is the rate of fall is a key in these deals. So I will either, if I do chatterbait, spinnerbait, crankbait on one side, on the other 3, drop shot, shaky head. The 3rd one's typically a wacky rig. That's me. That's like 3 and 3. That's what I'm doing. It'll be spinnerbait, crankbait, Texas rig, drop shot, shaky head, wacky rig. Okay, now we're talking about depths. That was the thing. That's point number 2 was the depth. So why I say 6, why I say depth. So again, drop shot, suspended fish, shaky head on the bottom, wacky rig for more finicky. All of them are for more finicky fish, but the wacky rig, just that slow presentation, that slow fall right in front of their face. It'll catch suspended fish. It'll catch fish on the bottom when it hits the bottom. It'll catch fish at the top if it's coming across the top. You can work a Senko on the top. I mean, I've seen, dude, there's so many ways to do that. Now you flip this. So I've got those 3 sides covered. Now on the other side, spinnerbait can catch them in the top, catch them in the middle, and I can put it on the bottom and slow roll it. Chatterbait, I burn my chatterbait. I keep my rod like up like this and kind of high, and I burn my chatterbait, or I'll just slow steady. The retrieves and all that sort of stuff, that's going to depend on the fish. It's up to you to figure out what the fish want, what they want to do. Sometimes they want it burned. Sometimes they want a nice, slow, and steady retrieve. I typically, and this is one tidbit I'll share in this one that wasn't supposed to be part of the CoAngler system, but I'll go ahead and add it in here as a 2A type of deal. But CoAngler system for me, I never fish any bait the way that people say you're supposed to fish it. If I'm fishing a crankbait, I'll give you for example, I fish a crankbait, like you're supposed to cast it out, right? So I cast it out, I'm reeling back, boom, I bumped the stump. Okay, I keep reeling. Boom, I bumped another stump. Keep reeling. Okay, the bait came back to me. That's how normally people are going to fish it. Either I got bit on those first 2 or I didn't. What I do, cast out, reel, bump the stump, pause. Reel again. It floated up, and then it sat, and then I reel again. Either I got smoked right there, or the fish is he's still curious. So while I'm thinking, what I do, poop, quick, I'll jerk my rod tip up real high. So my crankbait's going, and it just shoots up like this. And then it'll float up, and then it'll take off. So when I jerk it up, and I'll go back to reeling. I'll jerk it up again, and my boater's looking like, you gotta, and it kind of weirds people out because they're like, they think I'm setting the hook, but I'm real, and I'll jerk it up, and I'll reel and I'll jerk it up, and then I'll stop. It just completely stop, and then I'll burn it really fast, almost to blow it out the water, and it's going nuts, and then I'll just completely stop. And then I'll slow, steady retrieve at the end. So if somewhere in that area I know I didn't get a bite, crankbait's not the deal at that time. It's not. Literally, there's some cast that you make. Like if you get a wacky rig Senko and you skip it up underneath a dock and you hit that piling all the way in the back where it's guaranteed bona fide a fish is going to be, and you got the right color, you got the right thing. I am that confident in the fact that if I make that pitch, I'm leaving that dock. I'm going to the next one because there's no fish there. If there's sometimes when you hit a spot so perfect, they're not there. And that's not to say they're not there all day. I'll go back to that same dock again. I'll make the same pitch again. And then honestly, when I go back to it, I'll make that pitch. I'll make another pitch. I'll make another pitch. I'll make another pitch. I'll make another pitch. But when you're trying to figure out what they're doing, this is more for my boaters, and this is not what this class is for, but it's more for my boaters. There's some pitches and some skips that you make that if the fish they didn't hit that jig when you made that pitch, you guys to find somewhere else to fish, man, because they're not here right now. They're not here. Maybe circle back and check it. You can circle back in 30 minutes, man. They might be stacked on it at that time because you've jacked them on there before. You're familiar with the area. You know what's going on. You might want to come back then. But for the CoAngler system, what we're talking about, try to stay focused here. Need that teacher with that racer again. The system is set up to cover different depths in the water column. So that way, when you start your day, you hit the top with the buzz bait, you run it with the spinner bait, you run it with the chatter bait. And let's say a scenario where you did 4 and 2. A lot of times I'm doing 4 and 2, guys. A lot of times I'm really doing 4 and 2. But I like the 3 and 3, especially if I'm going to like deeper, clear lakes. I like 3 and 3 or 4 and 2 for spinning reel side. But a lot of times I'm doing 4 and 2. So I'll have a buzz bait, spinner bait, chatter bait, crankbait. And then on the other side, I'll just have a wacky rig and a drop shot. And then I just go. And then as the day progresses, I will cut off the drop shot or the wacky rig, whichever one I don't think is working at all. I'll put on a shaky head. And then I just get to patiently just sitting and barely hopping and sitting and then shaking, barely hopping, sitting, shaking. It's not fun. It's not glamorous. Sometimes bass fishing isn't glamorous, especially if you're trying to get a check. It's not glamorous. You just have to do what you have to do to be successful. So there's so many days where I've got a check. On the third fish that I could catch, I get a check that day because I switched up my whole deal. I took my system, I took my whole thing that I do, and I work within the system. I take a shaky head. I've been working it for an hour or two. We're not around fish. We're not getting bites. And I'll take a shaky head, and I'll add a rattle in the tail. And instead of casting where the boater's going, I'll cast out the other complete side of the boat. Just bomb a cast over in the middle of nowhere. Let it sit. And then just barely pick it up. Barely pick it up. I did it in the regional. The boater was halfway down the bank. And I was like, nah, we ain't been catching nothing this way. I'm not going to do that anymore. I bombed the cast way back out the back of the boat to in the middle. It looked like the middle of nothing. I cast it out there. Pick up. Let it sit down. Pick up. Let it sit down. He's going down the bank. My bait's just dragging. Every once in a while, I'm just checking it. A couple shakes here and there. And then shake. Whoa, and then I set the hook, and it was a 2-pounder. That 2-pounder is what ended up getting me paid. But again, it still all falls in the system. I had the bait already tied on. I already had the things I was working. I had the plan in case I want to get up there and get on the bank and do all that, but that wasn't working. So I had the rod already rigged up, ready to go with the shaky head. Want nothing to cast it out. And if you want to get really boring, cast out the wacky rig, let it sit. And as he's going down the bank, that wacky just going. If that doesn't get bit again, there's probably no fish in that whole part of the town. But it's just a system. This is a system to help you be successful on the water, which is why I gave very specific baits, very specific ways to approach it. But that is the system that I use. Part 1 and part 2. Try to keep it simple. 2-parter with a 2-8. System that I use for tournaments. So basically it's covering the depth and then bringing the right amount of equipment so that you're not confusing yourself, you're getting cluttered, the boater's stepping on your stuff because he has to get to his side and you got rods all in the middle everywhere. Like I said, 6 or less, and then make sure that whatever you tie on for the tournament covers the depths. And this is regardless of what the boater says. If he says we're going deep, Bring stuff that can go deep, but don't rule out the other side, because basically if he's going deep, you're probably throwing a shaky hit or a drop shot. Okay, that's 2 rods. If the fish aren't out there, he's going to go up shallow. And when he's burning the boat and going down the bank and going up shallow, and you've tied on everything for deep, when he gets up there shallow, he's going to have like 45 minutes to an hour by himself, depending on how you tie your knots. He's going to be up there going to work while you're sitting over here redoing your whole system. Where's my shake? Where's my Texas rig? Oh, where's my crankbait? Where's all that? You can be as organized as possible, but when it gets to be about 1 or 2 o'clock in the day on a tournament and the sun's beating you down, or it's freezing cold and you've been like this all day, or you're like getting ready to pass out because you ran out of water at 9 o'clock, you ate your lunch at 9:15, it's 2 o'clock and your blood sugar is low, you don't want to be retying a bunch of stuff. You want to work within the system that I'm giving you. Always keep something tied on that can go up shallow. Always keep something tied on that can go deep. If he decides to pull off that bank and go fish some brush piles out there, you do not want to tie a drop shot at 1:45 after you're sweating to death, you're upset, your day hasn't gone that great. You don't want to sit there and have to tie the drop shot. Keep the baits tied on that I'm telling you throughout the day. Make sure that you cover all the depths necessary, and then you have that CoAngler system set up to where you can say, I'm good to go regardless of what you do, buddy. My system just keeps it in place to where you can stay organized, stay ready for any situation. I think the main cliche you hear all the time is I stay ready so I don't got to get ready. The same principle applies to fishing. You want to be ready regardless of the scenario that the boater puts you in, because you're in an unfamiliar area with an unfamiliar person doing unfamiliar things. If you're fortunate enough to get a boater who knows the area, knows what's going on, and you know him for some reason, and y'all just go to work, then you just go to work. There's no need to do all it. Just you'll have the right baits tied on, but then just go to work, man. Just go fishing, okay? This is what I'm telling you. This helps you adapt and kind of bring your mind into the right way you need to bring it in to be able to be prepared for any scenario that may present itself. So I hope this information helps. I want to thank you for tuning in to my first ever class, the CoAngler System, proven tournament winning strategies from the back of the boat. I am your host, Ty. Again, I thank you for tuning in. Get you one of these, okay? They don't come easy. Not everybody has them. A lot of people have a bunch of them. Not everybody gets it in there, man. When I won this tournament, the guy I beat to get this trophy, and I say beat because he finished second place, I finished first. The guy has made over almost $200,000 from the back of the boat. I had to take this from his hands because he was going to win the tournament until I came up to the stage. I had to take this tournament out of that guy's hands because he had that tournament won until I came up to the stage with this deal. It's not going to be easy. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but I am telling you some ways that'll help you get there. And like I said, I will dig even deeper on some other episodes. There's philosophies regarding, there's some guys that only fish big baits because they're only going for the win. So either they're going to win the tournament or they're not going to win. They're not going to cash at all. They're going to zero. They're not going to win. My system puts you right in the middle. Okay, so you will consistently cash checks and eventually you will win one. I can't guarantee that. I'm not making no promises. I'm just saying I'm going to give you the best odds necessary to put yourself in position to possibly win one. But you've got to follow the system because, again, the way it's set up is that you're covering multiple depths. So you're not throwing a swim bait all day. You're hitting the top, you're hitting subsurface, you're going mid, you're going drop shot to catch the suspending, and then you're hitting the bottom. And then there's always a wild card in there somewhere. Like I said, you got the swim bait. There's always a wild card in there somewhere, typically for my deal. But you're starting here, and I guess I probably should have mentioned that, the depths. You're covering depths. So I always typically start on top. I go subsurface, I go right in the middle of the column, I go suspended, and then I go on the bottom. That's how I set it up. So I'm hoping that information helps. I want to thank you for attending my class, the CoAngler System. It's been a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. If you do have questions or additional information you need, you can be sure to check me out on any of my social medias. I'm not sure if there's a way on here to message me or something like that, but you can find me on Instagram at Bass and Furious, TikTok at Bass and Furious, YouTube at Bass and Furious. That is my social media handle all across multiple platforms. You can check that out. Feel free to send me a message if you need some additional information, you want me to expand on something, I'll be happy to do that. Again, remember, 2 parts If you use those 2 parts, it will increase your chances of being successful in the water, having a good day, and just overall enjoying your experience fishing from the back of the boat. So thank you for tuning into the CoAngler System. This is your host, Ty. I hope everyone has a great day.